What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. Hopefully, everybody had a good start to their week. You know what we're here for. Giants War Room. Let me go ahead and get this thing started. Let me get a little bit of background music going. You know how the vibe gets in here. Let me get that going just a little bit. Turn that down a bit. Also, please let me know if the audio is good. Let me know if the visual is good. Give me a thumbs up in the chat, or just let me know that I'm good in the chat. Going to do a quick roll call before we get this thing started. Very, very special show today, obviously. It's Bronco week. And fortunately enough for us, we have a special guest here from the Mile High Huddle, my man Chad Jensen. I'm going to go ahead and get him in here in a second, but I do want to do a quick roll call. Coach D says the bridge is over. Not sure what you mean about that. Not sure what you mean yet. Let me know, Coach D. Smokey the Bear says, let's effing go. Big Blue Wrecking Crew, that's a fact. Leo Lucas says, hello, Big Dash. How are you? So proper. How you doing, Leo Lucas? Have you been hearing Jalen Waddle to the Giants? We're going to talk about that a little bit later. A little bit later. We got some things to discuss first. But, yeah, I did hear some of the rumors. Last time I checked, the Giants are broke, and Waddle's contract is rich. Shout out to Independent Outsider. What's going on, Dave, with the $9.99 super chat? He says, trenches, beyond Benito and Thomas. What matchup should we watch? Rooting for Burns to become sack leader in this game. That is a competition of sack leaders for sure. He said, despite the Tino having 8 and Burns having 7, also Denver's altitude is Denver's altitude a factor. Now, we're going to talk about those things, man. We're going to talk about those things. Shout out to Luann, said, what's going on, Luann? All right, but without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into this. I want to welcome special guest, my man Chad Jensen from Mile High Huddle. Give me just a moment to get that on. How you doing today, Chad? Or tonight, I should say, Chad.
Doing great. It's great to be with you, man.
I appreciate you, man. And again, I appreciate you taking the time out. I know it was a little bit of a quick notice. I was scrambling around, ran across your page, man. Love what you guys are doing over there. Looked at your content and said, yeah, if this guy can get on the show, I would absolutely appreciate it. So I do appreciate you for joining.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. That's kind of how it goes in this game sometimes, right? Like, got to scramble here and there. So happy that we were able to hook up and connect on this, and looking forward to it.
No, absolutely. So I know I did a little bit of an introduction. If you don't mind, go ahead and introduce yourself as well. Let the people know where they can find you.
My name is Chad Jensen. I am the publisher of Denver Broncos on SI and Mile High Huddle on YouTube, and we do a lot of podcasting, a lot of live streams, just like what you're doing here. And we have a lot of fun. You can find me on YouTube, Mile High Huddle. You can find me on X at Chad N. Jensen, or Broncos on SI.
No, I appreciate that. So I do throw out a couple of icebreakers, just some questions that I have, and I do this every week with anybody that I have on. So the first question I always ask: are you where? Well, I should say, are the Broncos, because you cover a lot of sports. Are the Broncos where you thought they would be right now? Are they better? Are they worse? How do you feel about the Broncos so far?
Yes and no. From a record perspective, they're about where I expected them to be. Okay. But I got to be honest with you, and I think if you were to poll Broncos country and the fan base and most people in media like me who cover it, we expected Bo Nix to be out to a little bit hotter of a start in year 2. And you've always got that the so-called sophomore slump and that curse, which Sean Payton spent an entire summer dismissing. But nevertheless, he's been a little bit slower starting so far in terms of the numbers and in terms of the flow. The offense still hasn't quite found its footing. It's had some spurts here and there. The Cincinnati game, a quarter here, fourth quarter in Philly. There have been a few little spurts, but just not that consistency that you'd hope to see. Otherwise, the defense, as advertised, dude, and it's about to get even better because they got a linebacker in Dre Greenlaw coming back this week.
Yeah, I just saw that the designated to return. Does that mean he actually has a chance of playing this week, or he's just opening up that 21-day window?
Well, all we know for sure is they opened the window.
Okay.
Basing it on what I've seen from Sean Payton-led Broncos teams for 2.5 seasons, if they open the window, it's because they're expecting him to play this week. So doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen, but like last week, for example, the Broncos had one of their key defensive linemen, Malcolm Roach, had been on IR for 4 weeks. And, they started his clock on Wednesday. He was limited. Thursday, full go. Friday, full go. Saturday, he's activated to the 53, and he's playing on Sunday. So I expect it to probably be the same with Greenlaw, but no guarantee.
Okay. Now that's cool, man. And again, Greenlaw, familiar with him. Good linebacker, very good linebacker. I'm curious to see how he is when he comes back. We see it with Dexter Lawrence, man. Dexter Lawrence was dealing with an elbow, had surgery over the spring, and didn't really get into practicing too much. And then right now we're seeing Dexter Lawrence start to come on. He's not quite Dex yet. He still having some issues with his punch. Obviously it's an elbow injury. But again, once you get these guys that are coming back to your team, it's always like a little boost that the defense needs. So you did say some things about the offense, and I am cheating a little bit because again I watched some of your podcasts, and it surprised me just getting the temperature of the room when it comes to the play calling.
Yeah.
And Sean Payton, I heard some things that you guys were saying, like some people want him to hand over the play calling, some people are that's a little bit of a push with the fan base to give up the play calling.
Yeah, once again, if you were to poll Broncos fans, it's probably started to cool a little bit, but in the immediate aftermath of that Jets game, it's kind of been a theme throughout the season. But after the Jets game, it was like probably 70% in our live stream. People were like, hey, time for Sean Payton to give up play calling duties. And I think one of the reasons they're saying that, by the way, is that for the first time that I can recall since he's been the Broncos head coach in the preseason, he gave a couple of different guys a game each to call offense. So the actual offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, he got one game. The quarterback's coach / pass game coordinator, Davis Webb, got the second game, and then Peyton called the third. And the second game that Davis Webb called, was like gangbusters, huge numbers, and everybody looked great. And so when Broncos fans found out that was Davis Webb calling that game, now they got that in the back of their head that, forgetting that he's calling it against vanilla defenses and against guys, half of whom probably aren't even in the league today. And that was only a month and a half ago. So, but it's been off Sean Payton. I mean, little things like it's atypical of a Sean Payton play caller, what you expect, what you think of. Like, for example, you're backed up on your own 2, just got the ball pinned deep on a punt, and you go on first down, you call shotgun, you call empty, and you not only that, have the quarterback do a 7-step drop in the end zone on first down. And you're shocked when one of the guys gets busted holding in the end zone, and so it's an automatic safety and you're punting it back to the team. So little stupid things like that you would expect to see if it's a first-time guy like a Davis Webb going, oh, yeah, I guess I probably should never do that again. But Sean Payton's been calling plays in the league for 25 years.
A long time. I mean, he called plays for the Giants way back when.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and it threw me off a little bit. I'm like, okay, because I'm seeing what you guys are doing. Bo Nix basically came out last year. I didn't think he was going to be ahead of the game like he was last year. But when you create an offense that's working to the strengths of the quarterback, I think the quick game is something that Bo Nix is very good at, and I also think that he's way more athletic than people give him credit for. And you can go all the way back to Auburn, you can go all the way back to Oregon with that. He'll pull it down and run it in for a touchdown. I saw that earlier. I forget which game that was when he pulled it down. It was already in the red zone. It's not like he ran for 40 yards or anything like that. But he's not afraid to tuck it and run. When I think about the New York Giants versus a quarterback that can throw it and also has that athletic ability, and we've been facing that all year so far. We had Jaden Daniels, we had Herbert, we had Mahomes, we had Jalen Hurts, even though Hurts missed a couple of plays against his defense. I think right now for the New York Giants, man, because we've seen the athletic quarterbacks that are also, operate out of the pocket, it kind of helps us with the game so far because we've had a tough beginning of our schedule. Again, we're 2-4, you guys are 4-2. But for Giants fans, when we made the switch over to Jackson Dart, it's like a new energy. So even though we're 2-4, the confidence level is very, very high, within the fan base, and there's a lot of support behind Jackson Dart. So I do want to talk about your defense a little bit because again, your defense is very tough. I saw the PFF rankings for them. I think they were 6th or 7th. And I'm like, okay, Benito is a factor. Patrick Surtain, or PS2 like they call him, is a factor. For the New York Giants, though, again, when you have, and I believe you guys play a lot of man, and also Surtain, travels with the number 1 wide receiver. Well, the thing about this is we don't have a number 1 wide receiver. So does he travel like just is that the set of the defense, or is that week to week when you see him traveling?
Honestly, dude, it's week to week. There have been many games under Vance Joseph as defensive coordinator where you'd think this is the one. If you're going to have him follow a guy, this is the one, and they don't do it. And then other games where they do. So it really just depends, honestly. And I couldn't tell you for sure. Like, I've tried to figure out, well, what does it depend on? Try and anticipate it. Don't know, can't figure it out. But he does it, and sometimes he'll do it for like half the game. Sometimes he'll do it for all the game or not at all. But one of the things about Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, compared to Vance Joseph when he was Broncos head coach in 2017 and 2018, back then he was straight Wade Phillips defense. I'm calling man, too high shell, and I'll throw some blitzes here and there. But when he came in with Sean Payton as the defensive coordinator, we were coming off in Denver by that point 4 straight years of the Vic Fangio defense, which, as you know, the match quarters thing, the zone. Fangio was head coach for only 3 of them, but when he was fired, the new guy, Nathaniel Hackett, felt it was important to keep kind of schemed continuity. And so the hire, Evero, he was he kept the Vic Fangio scheme basically and the nomenclature. And oddly enough, when Vance Joseph came in a year later, he pretty much did the same thing. Now you'll see him roll some of his traditional man concepts like the Wade Phillips thing. It's still in his blood because that's the coaching tree he springs off as a defensive guy is Wade Phillips. So it's hard to say, man. And that's one of the things, by the way, that makes the Broncos tough besides their front seven and that pass rush is they kind of mix it up when it comes to coverages.
Yeah. And then that's why you guys are ranked so high too. You got talent and you also coach right, and the scheme fits the players. And that's one thing as a Giants fan. When we look at our team, when we look at our roster on paper, there's a lot of names there. And the thing going into the season was, we have a collection of players, but do we have a team? And we saw that early on with how many points we've been giving up. Not too much, recently, but giving up a lot of yardage and stuff like that. But the last couple of weeks, I don't know what's going on, but it seems like Brian Burns is coming along. You got, like I said, you have Dexter Lawrence is coming along as well. Then also, one of the unsung heroes is Kayvon Thibodeau right now. He's playing well as a complete, edge rusher, setting an edge against the run. Also, got more TFLs than sacks, but still impacting the game and doing a good enough job to hold off the rookie Abdul Carter from being a starter. So I do want to get to some of these comments since we're talking about the defense. Shout out to Derek Malfoy. He says, this defense going to rough up Dart a little bit. Also, they're honoring Thomas. Yeah, Thomas, 88 this Sunday too in Denver. We might be cooked. Yeah, I did see that. I saw that today that they were going to honor 88 out there on Sunday.
Well, it's DT's going into the Ring of Fame.
Yes.
So, but it's also coinciding with Alumni Week celebrating the Super Bowl 50 squad. So they're going to have the entire Super Bowl 50 dudes in the house, Peyton Manning, Von Miller. I don't know about Von, obviously, but that crew, right? Chris Harris, Aqib Talib, all those guys will be there.
Yeah,
and yeah, DT. Yeah, probably. Okay. I would assume so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I do want to get to some of these comments because then we got a little bit of trash talking and a little bit of other stuff going on. Tony Bonino says Burns has to be the defensive player of the year. That's what we're working towards, man. We're trying to see if we can get a Giant to do that. Now I will say this, and a lot of people, might not realize that you can be a fantastic defensive player. If you're not Myles Garrett, though, your team needs to win a little bit in order for you to get that defensive player of the year. I mean, so if you're either outstanding or the best of the best, or also you got to get a little bit of help, from your team in form of wins and losses. Born for Sports, what's going on, Born for Sports? He says, salute, Dash. I have finally come down off the high of smacking the Eagles. Now let's go beat Denver and trade Waddle or Olave, or trade for Waddle or Olave. Let's go Big Blue. I'm glad you finally came down off the high of smacking the Eagles. That's something that the Denver Broncos also have in common with the New York Giants, is beating the Eagles.
They crashed hard, though, off their high, for what it's worth.
Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, well,
barely knocked the Jets off. You know what I'm saying? Like, barely.
I'll tell you what, man. Watching that game as a Giants fan and coming off of that Eagles, I'm like, I'm seeing some weaknesses here. Yeah. For Denver, I had to take a step back and say, well, they're playing the Jets. They're playing the Jets. And the Jets do have some players on defense. For me, it seemed like in that game, Bo Nix wasn't quite Bo Nix as far as a rhythm. And I think that was the main thing. You let me know, what was your thoughts on that game?
No, it was once again, it's kind of the typical Bo thing where in flip flops. Sometimes he's great in the first quarter, like against the Jet, or first half, like he was against the Jets, not so good in the second half, or vice versa. Or sometimes it's every other quarter. You don't get rarely this season have you seen a steady 60 minutes, other than maybe the Cincinnati game on Monday Night Football. But yeah, not only that, but was holding the Broncos back in that game and against this Giants D line, it's going to be probably just as big a problem as they lost their tenured starting left guard, Ben Powers, the game before. So Powers suffered a biceps against the Eagles. He finished the game, though. And then now he's on IR starting, ahead of the Jets game. So it was bad. And then the guy they put in, Matt Pert, to replace him at left guard, he got hurt. He's on IR now. So they're scrambling, grabbing dudes off the street, calling guys up off the practice squad. So that's definitely still a weakness. And it's one of the reasons why they could not get anything going up front in the run game against the Jets.
Yeah, we're definitely familiar with Matt Pert. Pert being a former Giant, we had shipped him out of here. But actually, I believe this is the second year with you guys, right? Second year with you?
Yep.
And then I know last year he seemed to have, I guess he was better last year is what a lot of people were saying. I didn't really watch him last year, but I said the PFF, and you take PFF with a grain of salt. Those are just player grades. But from what I saw, he was definitely better or playing better with you guys last year than he ever did with the New York Giants.
Well, I mean, the thing real quick on Pert was he didn't really have to play last year. He was brought in to be the swing tackle, and then he got a little bit of competition from an undrafted free agent named Alex Palczewski, and they decided, we're going to keep them both. Pert's going to back up the left tackle, Garrett Bowles, and we'll keep Palczewski for Mike McGlinchey. But then going into, for whatever reason, they decided Pert was going to be a guard in this time around when Powers went down. And that's, I think, where they kind of went wrong, unfortunately, and then he got hurt. So that's not his forte.
So was Pert actually getting guard snaps, or was that just a move that they made that week?
He got snaps. He got 84 snaps at left guard in the preseason with the second team. So just kind of enough to get him worked into it a little. Mostly he was playing left tackle behind Bowles. And then, hey, let's throw some left guard in case we need to use him there. You could see they had already started thinking that way in the summer, but when it came out in the wash this early, he was clearly, that's not his forte. He needs to be a little bit more in space where he can use his athleticism, etc., a bit more.
Okay, cool. I want to give a shout out to Luann. Luann says Giants need to get to Denver early in the week, get used to the altitude. Of course, but the Giants won't. I was hoping that they were going to fly out at least tomorrow, at least a day 2 days early. Maybe they fly out Friday. I mean, not Friday. Maybe they do fly out Friday. But that altitude is no joke. I remember my wife's a Steelers fan, and I remember what's his name, Ryan Clark. He could never play those games because of the altitude and then I believe it's sickle cell that he has, or not sickle cell. It's
no, it's sickle cell.
It is sickle cell. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, outside of that and having ailments and stuff like that, just playing at that high of altitude, the air is thinner. And I'm worried about Dexter Lawrence because I see how he's breathing already, and we're talking about that sea level,
right?
Basically at sea level. And but now going to Denver, man, that outside of the team being a tough matchup, the area, the altitude is definitely a factor in this game. Shout out to Boat. Boat says the Broncos haven't played anybody. I feel like their Denver defensive stats, or their defensive stats, are inflated. I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback because when you look at the AFC West, I believe all you guys played each other already, right?
Not quite. They haven't played the Chiefs or Raiders yet. They've only played the Chargers once.
Okay, so Chargers once. Okay. That's the Chargers that played everybody starting off.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah. That's the Chargers.
Right out of the gates.
Yeah. Yep. And so they played the Chargers. They played the Eagles. They played the Jets. So no, they did have some good competition. I don't think the defensive stats are inflated. When you watch them, all 22, they're flying around all over the place. They really do get good pressure. Benito is as advertised. I don't, and also, I mean, you never want to overlook your opponent at all. And we're coming in there as an underdog, which New York Giants are always in the comfortable spot as the underdog. So now I do want to get into some matchups. Before we close this thing out, we'll close out this portion of it. When I'm looking at your defense versus our offense, a lot of people always want to talk about Jackson Dart and what he can do. They want to talk about Cam Scatterbo and being able to run the ball. I'm going to get away from that right now, and I want to look at some matchups where I think the Giants need to go, and that's we've been heavy 12 personnel, heavy 13 personnel. I believe the tight ends are going to play a big factor in this game, especially when you can get pressure the way that the Broncos can get pressure at the quarterback. Use your safety valves, use your safety blanket in the tight ends. As far as how have you guys been, and I don't know how, with the guys that you played, I know you played a couple of decent tight ends. Didn't play the Raiders yet, so didn't see Brock Bowers yet. But how are your safeties or your linebackers matching up with the tight ends?
The linebackers, not so good, but see, that's been without Dre Greenlaw. Okay. And if Greenlaw comes back, that's one of his calling cards is he's, hey, I'm a physical freak as far as run fits, but I can cover a guy. And so if it came down to the two guys that they've been playing up to this point, which is Justin Sternad and Alex Singleton, then my money's on whoever that opposing tight end is, because it's just not what they do. Now, when they rotate the safeties down, Talanoa Hufanga and Brandon Jones, they have better results. When they rely on their linebackers in coverage, especially with tight ends, they just don't have the chops. So a lot of that, too, will depend on, does Greenlaw actually come back this week?
Yeah, and like I said, I'm curious to see how he is. Again, you have to get in playing shape, too. Yep. So that's one of the major factors because, again, I thought Dexter Lawrence was just going to come back and be Dexter Lawrence. And I'm seeing a guy that his size, even though he's been dominant the last few, since Dable pretty much got here and they switched to nose tackle, I'm seeing that even him, the Superman that I thought he was, still needs time to heal and come back and get back into playing form and the playing shape. So outside of that, when I look at your offensive line and you guys dealing with some injuries there, it kind of reminds me of what we've been dealing with. So you had the Eagles that had injuries. You had the Chargers who lost, their tackles, and actually Joe Alt went out in that game. And that's another area where I think a guy like Burns plays on both sides. Bowles is a solid left tackle for you guys, solid player. But there's going to be a wave of edge rushers coming in, Burns, Tibbs, Abdul Carter. As far as the approach against this New York Giants defense, knowing the pass rush is the strength of the defense, how do you guys approach that game plan of being successful within your offense?
I think you're going to see a lot of screens. I think you're going to see Sean Payton, who already calls a lot of screens, but in this particular matchup, I think you're going to try and he's going to see if he can take advantage of that aggression and catch guys getting a little too far upfield, dunk the ball over them and let a guy try and get out. But it's a tough matchup. Bowles, I don't worry about Bowles anymore. After his first 3 years, he figured it out. About 2020 is when he kind of punched in, and I don't really worry about him anymore. Mike McGlinchey on the other side at right tackle. He's a great run blocker. He's like a 50-50 pass blocker. You never know what you're going to get, kind of like Forrest Gump. So that would be the matchup in terms of the edge. If I'm the Giants, I'd be trying to exploit with one small wrinkle to what I just said, which is the communication on that left side from whoever. We still don't even know who they're going to play at left guard on Sunday. Sean Payton, he will not talk about injuries. If there's any question about the lineup, he thinks, I'm not saying anything that gives an opponent a competitive advantage. So we still don't even know yet who's going to be that left guard. But the communication between Bowles, whoever that guy is, and the center, Wattenberg, I'd test that a little bit too if I was the Giants, throw some numbers that way and see what happens.
There's definitely some issues that we have on the back end with communication. These guys, I mean, they're new, they're playing together. So that's one thing that we noticed. And again, as time goes by, the communication gets better. Posting Adebo, Javon Holland, we're starting to see these guys not necessarily be the guys that we thought they were going to be even 2 years ago. If they can get to that point, then the New York Giants defense is going to be fantastic. I do want to get to the super chat. Shout out to my man Tuto. Tuto, what's going on, Tuto? He says, salutes and respects to Big Dash and all diehard Giants fans across the pond. Greetings from our entire team currently in London. So you're in London this week. If you don't know, Tuto is a rugby player for Italy. He says, please pray for my victims on Saturday. Saturday, mate. Shout out to my man Tuto. Thank you for the love and support as always, man. Oh man, yeah. Tuto,
love that swagger, dude. My victims.
Oh yeah. And if you that's a picture of him in the thing. He's ripped, man. He's an absolute monster out there on the field. Maybe the Giants need to pick him up. But It's also, let's see, Big Moose says, to me, this is a statement game for the Giants. We're not flukes. We're going to kick some ass. So I do want to say this, man. I feel like where the New York Giants are right now is kind of where you guys were um before you got Peyton, right? In a spot where, and this is something that I've been pushing, you want to get your respect back first. You don't want to be looked at as the weak link in the division. You don't want to look, as a laughing stock for the Giants, a laughing stock in the league. And I feel like with Sean Payton and you guys, he turned that team around pretty quickly. And again, he brought in, I guess, a certain type of swagger. Maybe the team all bought in, coaching staff is all bought in, and you guys turned that, pretty much turned it around, complete 180. So I do respect that. I feel the same way about the New York Giants. Now, Brian Dable came in with the highs of highs, coach of the year, winning the playoff game, and then the next two following seasons, he's pretty much trying to dig himself out of a grave right now. But with this added, I guess, juice that people love to call it, the juice of Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo, I feel like we're the team right now that's trying to get their respect back. And one thing that Jackson Dart had said in prior to the game was, last week's game, is like, don't put all those losses on any of the new guys here. We weren't here for all those losses.
Right.
We're moving forward. We're trying to stack these W's. So Jackson Dart is highly confident, and I love that about him. But to my man's point, this is a big game for the New York Giants as far as seeing where we stand. And for me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't agree with this, is it's not just about the wins for me. It's about how we look as well. Because right now I don't feel like we're in the same spot where the Broncos are looking at this at the conference like, you know what, we can be the top dogs in the conference. We can push to be contenders. I feel for the New York Giants, we have the hope for being contenders, and if we win a couple more games, and we have a chance to beat the Broncos, I think that moves us even further to getting to that point where, yes, we're back, yes, we got the respect. Now let's go ahead and stack some W's. And I've seen some people, because like I said, I've been cheating. I've been watching your show. I've seen a lot of comments from Denver Broncos fans saying pretty much, could this be the get right game for you guys as far as your offense? This defense is going to be something that Jackson Dart has not seen before, or Cam Scatterboo, Love Fest, the honeymoon is over. What is the vibe versus the fans versus you of this Denver Broncos going into this game against the Giants?
Well, that word that you use, the juice, right? This new thing, this new energy that the Giants have with Jackson Dart and Scatterboo, like it's a thing, and it's kind of gone from the intangible world to the tangible world, and we saw that in that Philly game. And I think the Broncos are recognizing the Giants for the threat that they are. The one thing I'm going to be really curious to see is, the Broncos were literally away from home for 2 weeks. They left to go play the Eagles, East Coast game, early start, and then they stayed out. They left from Philly to go to London. And so I'm really curious to see how much coming back home finally, because it probably felt like they were gone forever, how much that's going to help them from an energy and a vibe, intensity perspective. But there's no doubt, dude, the Giants have something special cooking with the energy and the vibe, and that defense is absolutely no joke. But the Broncos, they played a rookie in week 1 in Cam Ward. The offense for the Broncos didn't do so well in that particular game, but the defense shut him down, sacked him. I think in that one is 5 or 6. So Dart's going to get hit. He's going to get sacked. But I like his moxie and his playmaking ability, and I like what he's able to do with his legs. So I don't know. This is, for me, before the season started, I'll be frank with everybody, I had this circled as probably a Broncos victory on the schedule, but just over the last 2 weeks alone, my view on this game has kind of evolved, because it's not just about the Giants. The Broncos went into Philly, got, snapped the streak, gave them their first loss of the season. And then you'd think, oh, we're on a high. Here we go. Let's rock and roll. A statement game. We're turning a corner. Then they go to London, play the Jets, and barely squeak out a win. Win's a win. Broncos aren't going to apologize for it, but
Absolutely.
It's like, hey, did you squander some juju because maybe you stayed out, you decided to stay out, and all that stuff? Who knows? But the Broncos are kind of in a weird position where we're not really ever sure what we're going to get, with the exception of the defense. The defense, that front seven, is legit.
Yeah, and I, like I said, I'm confident with this defense, but I also feel like with our DC, Shane Bowen, he doesn't always put the players in the right position, to be at their best. And that's one thing with the Giants fan base. It's like we have this constant push back and forth of we're winning, but also we can see where we can improve, but also be happy with the wins. But I can also talk about areas that can improve. And even the teams at the top of the top, you're a two-loss team. You're still talking about ways that you can improve. You're critiquing your team, and it's okay to do that. It's okay to be greedy as a fan. I do want to get to this super chat here from Jay Hernandez, 999 super chat says, "What up, Dash? You're right. Tight ends early and often. Shout out to my soldiers at Fort Carson in Colorado. Salute to the soldiers at Fort Carson." So before we get out of here again, and I don't know if you participate in predictions. Some guests do, some guests don't. I'm gonna go ahead and get a prediction from you on this game. Where do you see this game going, and also a score prediction at the end?
I see the Broncos starting off a little bit cold. I see the Giants kind of coming in, popping them in the mouth. As far as the offense dictating to the defense early, because that's the one thing is the Broncos are good at keeping teams out of the end zone, but they'll give up yardage. And so I'm really curious to see exactly how the Giants approach attacking the Broncos. But I think the Giants they'll get theirs in early, and then Bo Nix will start doing his thing, come back. I think the Giants lead this thing for 2 quarters. Bo Nix drives them back in the fourth, and they end up winning. The Broncos, that's my pick. Score, I'm gonna say
you don't have to be honest.
That's okay. I'm going to say 24-21 Broncos, and I do think this is a game that comes down to the end.
I like that. I like that prediction. I'll say this thing. One thing that makes me feel good about the New York Giants is being able to get out there and score quick, because I believe if we can play with a lead and force teams into obvious passing downs, that's when this defensive front can actually get after the quarterback. So for me, my prediction is actually the same, but I have the Giants winning 24-21. That's funny because I got it written down on my notepad here. But again, I do appreciate you for hanging out with me. Chad, again, let the people know where they can find you. Before you do that, though, the show is not over after this. I'm seeing a lot of comments and talking about wide receiving and trades like that. I will hold on for a little bit longer to talk, more Giants updates and stuff like that. So, Chad, go ahead and let the people know where they can find you and what you're up to.
Just, hey, man, if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me on Broncos, Chad and Jensen on X, or find me on YouTube, Mile High Huddle.
I appreciate you, man. You have a good night, man. And I never say, good luck to the opponent. I say, I hope you guys leave the game healthy. Everybody leaves healthy.
Amen. Dash, thanks, buddy. This was a blast. I appreciate you having me.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you again for the quick notice too, man. Appreciate it more than you know.
You got it.
All right, folks. All right, I do see the comment section is crazy. I'm not going to shut the stream down because, again, I want to answer some of these questions. See guys asking questions about possible trade candidates for wide receivers. I do apologize. I'm going to start at the beginning and go through some of these comments, man, and hang out with y'all, just for a bit here. So let's get up. Give me just a moment to get through the comments. And if you want to, go ahead and put the comments back at the bottom again if I missed anything. And I know I missed a lot. Okay, back to Leo Luca. That was one of the first questions. He says, "Hello, Big Dash. How are you?" How are you, Luca? He says, have you been hearing the Jaden Waddle to the Giants? I have been hearing all of the rumors, not just the Jalen Waddle stuff. I think that's more of a fan-created wish than actually something that can happen. Again, just got a new deal. That's a lot of money. The New York Giants are broke right now. So if you do make a move for Jalen Waddle, I think you need to make a little bit more cap space than the $4.8 million that the Giants made this, earlier today, restructuring the contracts of Poston Adebo and Javon Holland. All right. Luann says, "I'm not giving up picks for Waddle." We have Juice Wells now. He was Dart's teammate. I'll tell you this, Luann. I agree with not wanting to give up draft picks. I don't want to give up draft capital either. But when we talk about the difference between Waddle and Juice Wells, it's night and day. It's absolutely night and day. Smokey the Bear says, "Let's trade D Banks in the 5th to the Saints for Chris Olave." They are not taking D Banks in the 5th for Chris Olave. I'm sorry. That is not happening. Dominic says, "Big Dash knows what." New York Giants football. Appreciate the love and support. My man Dominic in the building said, "What's good, brother?" Ian, what's going on? What's good, Dash? Harvey says, "Young blood fever." With the young blood fever with these youngest, they definitely sparking this team up, man. They're feeding off the energy too, man. And it's funny too because going into the season is Jackson Dart, Abdul Carter, and we're like, okay, we got Cam Scatterable who will run through a brick wall. But a lot of this energy, if we're going to be absolutely honest, we're giving a lot of credit to Jackson Dart, rightfully so, because he is the quarterback, he's the driver of the car. But Cam Scatterable is bringing a lot of energy, and when you see him on the sideline, he's grabbing veterans by the collar and getting them hyped. So shout out to all these guys, man. Shout out to all these guys. Flatbush 90 says, "Big Dash, you were a regular hit on the Shakedown show. What happened to that show? They're still there. It's called the Shakedown Sports Media, no, Shakedown Media Network. They still do their shows. They're still live. I know that Shakes and E, you can find those guys out there. LRP still out there. And also they're in the chat some of the times too, man. Those still my good brothers, but they still exist. They still out there. They still making moves, putting out content. Abraham says, "You know the vibes. Giants are back. That's a fact." Darian says, "Big Dash, let's go Waddle all day." A lot of people want Waddle, man. You know what? Because it's a lot of comments, I'm gonna go down to the bottom. I'm gonna try to get to some of these comments as well. But as far as some of the options that we've seen for wide receivers, Chris Olave, Waddle, Jerry Jeudy. Don't list them all, but let me know who your favorite option is at wide receiver right now out of those names. I also think that A.D. Mitchell would be a good target, but a lot of people are not showing the same love to A.D. Mitchell. But let me know what you guys think about that. Go ahead and put that in the comment section, please. Shout out to my man Prince Castro says, "Dash, how can we get a crowd to get the Feet 5-4 Fum going? They keep trying these chants and it's not working because Feet 5-4 Fum is the one." Let me tell you something. What's his name? The name of the DJ is Young Degree, right? And I think the best chance that the New York Giants have is getting in contact with the DJ and the DJ putting that bug in somebody's ear, as far as maybe the media staff or something like that. But they definitely got to get some. It makes too much sense. Chris Castro, I remember you said it years ago, the Fee 5-4 years ago, and then you got my man TP picking up the torch with the Fee 5-4 too. So it's definitely a movement, definitely something that should happen. But we got to get into the ears of the DJ first, and maybe that DJ can let the decision makers know what's going on. Shout out to Kalen Waters in the building. Says this should be a physical game. I'm looking for misdirection and play action to be schemed into the flow to counter aggressive defense. Yeah, I do think we're going to have to go ahead and do that. Listen, they got to dig deep in their bag. And I thought it was interesting at the podium today. Jackson Dart says, he definitely voices his opinion. He's vocal about what he likes to do, but he's also open, pause, to extending that playbook. And that's something that you have to do. And listen, we're only talking about a guy that has 3 starts, and he's already, self-evaluating himself, critiquing himself because he wants to do more and he feel like he can do more. I still think right now with the weapons that we have, 13 personnel, 12 personnel is the best way to go. But you see the kid is hungry. And he's ready to push the ball downfield because he's done it before in the past, done it at the college level, and you've seen him doing it in the preseason, a lot more deep shots. He's ready to go for sure. Mr. Handsome says Abdul Carter breakout game. I hope so. I'm also hoping for a Dexter Lawrence breakout game as well. Dexter Lawrence is starving for a sack right now. Absolutely starving for a sack right now. My man Leo Lucas says Giants defensive line is elite. That's a fact. It is, and we're getting there. And I think the better that the front plays, the better result you see on the back end. We're starting to see that communication getting better. In the secondary, coaching staff down to the players, safeties to the cornerbacks, communication is getting better. Eric James Johnson says we scored 27 points against the Broncos. We win. I do believe that. I absolutely do believe that. And it's funny too because like my man Chad said, he said that I see the New York Giants, scoring points early, and then in the second half, them doing their thing and coming back. I have to push against that because one thing that I like the New York Giants with a lead because it means if we have, and especially if we have a 2-score lead or anything like that, that means you're in obvious passing downs depending on how much time is left on the clock, what quarter you're in and stuff like that. And I like the Giants in that situation where they can pin their ears back and get after the quarterback for sure. So even though he feels like they can come back against the Giants, I feel like the Giants have proven in the games that we did win, that we seen with the Eagles. We went up 14-3 against the Eagles. Next thing you know, it's 14-7, and they came back on us, and we were able to to beat that out and get the win by 17. So I can't wait for this game, man. I keep saying I want to hit the fast forward button to Sunday just so I can see these Giants play, man. I'm curious to see what actually happens. I'm curious to see what kind of offensive scheme they come out with this week, and I'm curious to see if Shane Bowen listens to the players. They said that Dexter Lawrence and the defense, basically had a meeting with Shane Bowen and told him that, we want a more aggressive style of defense. And I'm hoping that he's taking heed to that and, draws up some plans in the scheme that, is what these players are asking for. Eric James Johnson says, no trade, get Jordan Tyson in next year's draft, save them picks. I'm always with saving the picks, especially when not having a third round pick. If of all the years where you won a third round pick, you want one every year, but this would be a good year because that wide receiver class is deep and it goes 3 rounds deep. And because we're not looking for that wide receiver one, obviously we want another wide receiver one. You don't need that wide receiver one. Jordan Tyson is absolutely a wide receiver one. I would love to pair him with Malik Neighbors. I don't think the New York Giants would be drafted high enough to get a guy like Jordan Tyson. So, what we do in that first round depends on what's available and the style of wide receiver, and what would also we do in the free agency. My man Greg T says we got Scatterboo, we ain't cooked. Nah, yeah, Scatterboo is definitely the one that's stirring the pot right now when it comes to the Giants. We like Jackson Dart brings a lot of the energy, but it's something about Cam Scatterboo, man. You can't contain the type of energy he brings. And some people will say is those two guys together, it's not good. I mean, it's not good for other teams. I mean, but also those guys get wild. Corp CA with the $10 super chat. What's going on, Corp? He says, a zombie that walks slowly is easier to evade without getting bit, but a zombie that can run will strike fear in the hearts of an audience. Cam Scat is the zombie who can run and bite. Listen, that's a great analogy. That's a great analogy because the Walking Dead zombies don't scare anybody. But that what was it? World War Z, them running zombies? Yeah, big difference. Absolutely a big difference. Great analogy there for sure. A lot of Tuto getting shown a lot of love in the building. Darius, what's going on, Jarius? I see you. I see with Big Moo in the building as well. Dog in the building says I hit him up. All right, let me get down to the bottom, get caught up to the chat. And I see you put the score a couple times, Born for Sports. It says 16-13 Giants. Russ giving Dable the intel on Peyton's playbook for revenge. Let's go. That's funny too because going into the season, people like, Dart might start early. We might see him, by the Saints game. And I was like, man, we're going to miss out on that revenge game for Russell Wilson going back to Denver because Peyton did him dirty out there. But the scenario is what the scenario is. Jackson Dart is now the starter for the New York Giants, future franchise quarterback, I should say. And the story will write itself Sunday. Later start too. 4 o'clock game. Greg T says the Broncos rush defense is sus. It's not though. It's not. They can play. Now, when you're dealing with athletic quarterbacks, it might be a little bit harder to get to, but they can play, man. That's a top 10 defense. I believe they're either what I have here. Yeah, they're ranked 7th. That defense is ranked 7th in the league right now. Chargers are ranked 6th, and you saw what we did to the Chargers. But it's a different animal, man. We'll see what happens. Was it Michael? Michael says, I hope we can get Waddle before we play the Broncos. In order for that to happen, it got to happen like tomorrow. Once you get into Friday, that's pushing a little too close. You might not be ready to play, against the Broncos. Now, we've seen things happen like that before where next day they got a couple of routes that he can go out there and run, but we're talking about a difficult offense to learn. Everybody that you can name, everybody that you can talk about, this offense is not easy to learn. And I would, maybe there's a couple of routes that you can put in for Waddle if we get Waddle, but I wouldn't bet on it. Tudo says, Dash, who's this dude in our housemate? What's he's talking? Listen, man, we gotta be respectful at the end of the day. At the end of the day, Tudo, you know what it is. You know how I feel about it too. You can't just go in here trash talking. You know what I mean? This is a different vibe. It's called the War Room. We have a discussion. I like to hear point of views before we get crazy. You know what I do? I leave it up to the chat, you guys to get crazy. And it wasn't too many Denver Bronco fans in here for you guys to get crazy with, so I understand where you're coming from. But you know what it is. It's at the end. It's a business first. The channel is a business first, and who knows if we meet them again, possibly in the Super Bowl. You know, it's good to grow those relationships. I can't be sitting here throwing elbows and punches every time I get it. That's for you. That you my guy for that. If I need some enforcement, I'm gonna go get Tudo for that. Greg T says, we'll see how many Broncos safeties want to step up in the hole after what happened to Cooper DeJean and Zach Bond last week. That's another thing. Like, people watch Cam Scatterbull, and, you know, as fans, we watch Cam Scatterbull, but we really don't know the feeling. Like, Tudo, you probably know the just that kind of physical impact and what that does to somebody physically and mentally. And we know for a fact that Cam Scatterbull is not phased. But you saw Zach Bond's face. You saw Cooper DeJean struggle. You saw Dory Jackson make a business decision. It's different, man. And it's funny, too, because you would expect something like that from a guy like Brandon Jacobs, 6'4", 250-pound running back. Like, if we're being honest, like, Scatterbull is compact. But he's still giving you that same type of energy. Will run you over and not even think about it. The Big Moose says, get right. He says they nearly lost to the Jets. Now, that's a fact. I remember watching that game, man. It was Sunday morning. It was the first game of the day, and I expected the Broncos to just walk through the Jets, and the Jets did give them everything that they can handle. Now, like I said, I was cheating. I've been watching the Broncos content creators, and a lot of people have issues with the play calling. They got issues with Sean Payton saying that he's not calling plays to the strength of Bo Nix. And when you watch these games, you can see that, but also they're dealing with some drops. They're dealing with some offensive line issues as well. I think right now for the Broncos, I kind of feel like the New York Giants or the Detroit Lions in like 2022, 2023, whenever they started making that turn, it was like, you know, Detroit Lions are not stacking dubs yet, but you definitely don't want to play that team because it's absolutely physical. And I think the New York Giants are getting to that point where on the offensive side now with the battering ram of Bam Bam Cam, that's a new nickname that people are coming out with. And then you have this defense that's relentless. Like, I don't think a lot of teams are going to want to play us, especially when it gets cold outside. Because when it gets cold outside, people don't like to hit as hard. You know what I'm saying? Sean Jackson says, what up, Dash? Is Bo Nix and Denver built to come back if the Giants play a lot of up-tempo and jump on the Broncos early and often? Which giant weapon or weapons and Mile High is most concerned about? Again, I think the tight ends are going to play the most important role here. Whoever Patrick Surtain is covering, you probably want to go away from him. And that's just being respectful at the end of the day. You probably want to go away from whoever Patrick Surtain is playing because he pretty much takes people out of the game. Fortunately for us, we don't have a real wide receiver one right now. So we can spread the ball around. But I think the tight ends is where you start this game. That's been the recipe for the last 3 games. And we've started off hot the last 3 games since Jackson Dart has been starting. And how do we do that? By using the tight ends early and often, like my man said. And that's how we do it. And then, listen, if we go up 14 points or 2 scores against these Broncos, I think it might be trouble for them. Because that's when the defense gets active. That's the only time where I'm comfortable with Shane Bowen calling the defenses is when we actually have a lead, because then it's straight pass rush. We're not worried about disguises in the secondary, which he's not really good at. But you get a couple stunts, some twists, get some pressure. Everybody doing their job, winning the one-on-one matchups. It's going to be something. It's absolutely going to be something, and I can't wait to see it. My man Michael says, yes, Dash, we are greedy for wins. That's a fact. Derek Rice says, and right away they are getting receiver for Dart. Yeah, and I'm assuming that's a reply to another comment. It's funny too that the New York Giants have become buyers, not sellers, at the trade deadline now. And we know exactly what happened because prior to Jackson Dart playing and prior to this frenzy of Darth Vader and Cam Scatterboo, I think we might have been sellers at the trade deadline. But they're seeing the way that Jackson Dart is playing. You couple that up with Brian Dable still, even though Jackson Dart is the guy right now, still coaching for his job. You have a GM who is also thought he wasn't on a hot seat, but thinking he could possibly be on a hot seat as well. I think they're going all out. Remember when Jerry Reese was on the hot seat and he bought a whole entire defense for Ben McAdoo. It was Jack Rabbit. It was what was it? It was Harrison. It was Olivia Vernon. He went crazy with the spending. I think we spent back then. What was that? 2016. Back then, spending $140 million on players was ridiculous. Now you're seeing the New York Giants, even though we're broke right now, made a little bit of space, but they're looking at Jackson Dart like, not only are we worried about him developing, we might actually be get a chance to win some games and possibly knock down some doors and possibly get to a wild card or possibly look at the division. Because for me, with the way that the NFC East is looking right now, if the New York Giants can get a little bit closer, if we can get to 4-4 and the rest of the NFC East, loses a couple more games and we can get neck and neck with them, then it's anybody's division at that point in time for me. You got a lot of teams dealing with injuries, but the thing about the New York Giants is the energy that's going on right now is something special. It's absolutely something special. Smokey the Bear says, I'm starting Jackson Dart in fantasy, and I'm sure a lot of guys don't agree with this, but I've started him the last 3 weeks. Not bad production. I dropped Murray for Dart. Listen, we can always drop Murray for Dart. It ain't even close. It ain't even close, even though Murray is hurt right now. Anyway, and before he even got hurt, he was looking bad. And then Jacoby Brissett goes in, and he looks better than Murray. Got the offense moving last week. It is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, Dart over Murray 100 times out of 100 times. The Big Moose says 27-24 Giants. That's a fact. Michael says 24-18 Giants. I didn't even call for the predictions yet, but shout out to y'all. Luann says Scatterboo 3 touchdowns, another 3 touchdowns. Let's do it. Let's do it. Michael says, Dash, we love you. We are trading for Waddle. I mean, listen, if you do it, we do it. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost some draft picks. But at the end of the day, you're still getting Waddle. So, whatever makes the New York Giants better. And the way that Joe Shane has been picking, what about them picks? Derek Jones says, is Waddle a number 2? He will be if, once we get Malik Neighbors back. But if you put Waddle on this team right now, he's the number 1. I don't believe he's a number 1 receiver, but for us, he'll be a number 1. Super Mario A1 says, why are we not using Turbo Miller? He says, I really think we could use him somewhere. Well, the best chance for Turbo Miller to actually get some play was when Tyrone Tracy was hurt. And unless we trade a running back like Devin Singletary, I did see some teams are hungry for running backs right now. I don't think Turbo Miller gets a chance. His best chance is already passed unless something else happens. I don't think we're going to see Miller. And that, it kind of sucks too, because when Tracy was gone, Turbo Miller, and we went with 2 running backs 2 weeks in a row, I think that would have been a good sample size to see what Turbo Miller can provide. Because it doesn't take a lot of touches for Turbo Miller to go off. We saw that in the preseason. He's a playmaker. At any given time, he could take it to the house. Greg T says, we don't need no wide receiver ones. We need to use the $4.2 million for supplemental roster guys in emergencies. I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to talk about that. I just like everybody else, you got the news this morning. You saw that the New York Giants restructured Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland. They created $4.8 million in cap space. Everybody goes straight to, we're making a move. We're going to trade for somebody. And it doesn't help when that's the rumors going out. But when you look at the money itself, we're talking about $4 million when you really think about $4 million, that's not enough space for a big money move. Unless you're planning on making some other moves and touching some other contracts. I agree with you, Greg. I think this money is more about having that operational space throughout the season. You got to bring guys up from the practice squad. You got to sign some guys off the street, possibly. All those lower on the depth chart roster moves that cost $1 million here, $1 million there, a couple $100,000 here, a couple $100,000 there. That's what I think that money's for is for as well. Now, if they would have touched like Brian Burns' contract, or if they would have got Dexter Lawrence's new extension and created like $13-14 million in cap space or $20 million in cap space, then I'm like, absolutely, they're trying to make a move for somebody. But that $4.8 or $4.2 million, whatever that number is, it doesn't scream out we're making a move. But if you let the sports media tell it, the Giants are actively and aggressively looking for a wide receiver to add to the roster. And again, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Time will tell. Time will definitely tell. I see I'm getting caught up. Nova Nebula, what's going on? Nova says Waddle is the most talented for sure. Now I do want to say that I don't agree with. I don't disagree with that at all. I think when you're looking at all of the available options right now between Waddle, Chris Olave, Jerry Jeudy, I do believe Waddle is the most talented. Now for the situation for the Giants, now walk with me just a little bit, because some people don't want to hear this at all. I really like the option of A.D. Mitchell. The Indianapolis Colts, that wide receiver room is deep. You have A.D. Mitchell in the doghouse right now, but he's in the doghouse because of some bonehead plays. One of those bonehead plays was, pretty much crossing the end zone line without the ball in his hand because he dropped it a step too early. And we've seen that happen a lot. And it actually cost, the Colts the game. But when you look at A.D. Mitchell, everything that you want a sidekick to be next to Malik Neighbors, A.D. Mitchell is that. 6'2", 200 pounds, fast, good hands, good body control. Damn near catches everything they throw to him. Can get open, can run routes. And you don't have to spend a second round pick on him. And you have, because he came in the same year as Malik Neighbors, you have 3 more years of control on his contract, or 2 more years of control on his contract. That seems like a better deal to me. It really does, because you got to keep the cap healthy, man. You can't make $4 million in space and just get rid of it like it doesn't matter. We still have operational, we still have to take care of the operational stuff for the rest of the season. Where we at? We got 11 games left. It's a lot of time left. We need that money. We can't just go ahead and dump it. I see a lot of people are excited for Waddle, man. It's funny. McCann Cornell says, I don't want another short wide receiver. You talking about Waddle being short? I hear you. Now, the other thing is this, though. If you bring in somebody like Waddle, what does that happen? What happens to Wan'Dale Robinson for the people that are big Wan'Dale Robinson fans? Because he's up for a contract, and if you get Waddle up, you don't have any money in the budget for another wide receiver like Wan'Dale Robinson. You just don't. So there's certain things we got to think about when it comes to building this wide receiver room, and what's good for the short term and what's good for the long term. And I'm always looking for the bigger picture in the long term. But I like that, McCann. Michael says, I would give up 2 this year and a 5th pick in 2027. Listen, that's what we talking about. That's a lot. Fifth String said, let's call Kenny Golladay. Nah, he good, man. Golladay is good. He can stay where he's at. Derek Jones says, Dable didn't want DJ, so he sabotaged him. Did you see how Dable ran into the tent for Dart? I won't say that he sabotaged Daniel Jones, because once you pay Daniel Jones, he becomes your quarterback, and it's in your best interest for him to succeed. Get him more weapons, or do what you need to do to get him over the hump. So I won't say that he sabotaged Daniel Jones, but he also didn't. And I don't want to sound like I'm apologizing for Daniel Jones, but you see what happens when you have better coaching, better offensive line, and better weapons at the time. And I'm not just talking about the Malik Neighbor years. Talking about the time before that. Darian says, Big Dash. Waddle is worth a draft pick because you know what you're 100% getting. I get it. A draft pick is never promised, and we know this all too well as Giants fans. Waddle, Leak, and Robinson next year again. If you're signing somebody like Waddle, where's the money for Wandell? That's funny. Waddle and Wandell. Shout out to my man Jessa with the yo. What's going on, Jessa? How you doing? Prince Cattrall says, how many out routes until Dable? How many out routes until Dable opens Hyatt's bag up for a double move upfield? He'd have 2 or 3 tugs. If they let him go, let it go with his arm. I'm looking for a deep dig route too for Jalen Hyatt, because when I got into a little back and forth. What was it after? It was one of those lives I got back and forth talking about Hyatt, kind of defending Hyatt, which I was defending Hyatt. But these guys play off of Hyatt so much. The one route that I think will work is a deep dig. Once you sell that go route, and then you do that deep dig, I think he's going to be open. I think, and then the offensive line has shown that, that's a route that can develop, a longer route that can develop and work. It just depends on if the coaches want to do that. I think without having Malik Neighbors, they do have to be, more creative with some of the route concepts. But we've seen so far that it's about the quick game and getting the ball out to the tight ends and then working off of that. So we'll see what happens. But there's definitely a handful of routes that you can use Dart for. And I think the deep dig is something that is right there. It's absolutely right there for us to take advantage of. Because, again, I don't understand why they do it. I don't understand why they play so off on Hyatt and why they look at the safeties for communication. But they bail. They bail so he won't beat them deep. Dig route. Let's play chess, not checkers. Let's play chess, not checkers. Derek says Dable never wanted DJ. It's clear as day that Giants could have won with DJ. The Colts are winning. Well, the other thing is this. Just think about the offense that the Colts are running. Power running game with Jonathan Taylor too, and think about where that coach came from. He's basically running the offense that the Philadelphia Eagles did with Jalen Hurts. It's the same exact offense. Like the strengths that Jalen Hurts had in the Super Bowl that they lost. That's when Shane Steichen was there. It's the same thing, same concepts, and it's working because you have the talent, you have the offensive line. We'll see what happens when we get deeper into the season. It is what it is. DG says, damn, I'm late. Time to rewind. Waddle only person worth trading for. 2110 Big Blue. There you go. Quick and easy. Greg T says, Zach Bond been waking up in cold sweats all week. Yeah, that's a fact. I'm glad you caught the pause for me, Jarvis. My man Jonathan Pryor might not be in the building, but I'm glad you caught the pause for that. First Castro says that's wicked work. We're going to leave it alone. Prince says Indy is already legit, brother. Listen, I got them beating the Chargers, man. Let's be honest. I got them beating the Chargers. I got no hate for Daniel Jones. I don't care about Daniel Jones, but I definitely don't have any hate for Daniel Jones, and I see what's going on over there. They got a recipe that's working for them over there. They're winning games, and they're stacking dubs. No matter what we say, they're playing the Broncos this week. Didn't matter. You know what I mean? We'll see it. Bourbon Cigars. What's going on, Bourbon Cigars? He says, let's get this win. I can't wait till Sunday. I want to hit the fast forward button so bad. My man is Alex. Alex says AT will completely shut down Benito. I didn't want to say that, but I believe that as well. I don't want to jinx it. Benito was solid, but I do think that Brian Burns, going out of this week will be the sack leader, the sole sack leader, pause, in the NFL after this week, after this game. I think Burns can get to him at least 2 times. I think the defense as a whole can probably I think they can get to him at least 5 to 6 times. I think that, not at least, because that sounds cocky as hell. But I think there's a chance, for 5 to 6 sacks on Bo Nix this week. Especially if we're playing with a lead and we put them in obvious passing downs. No Mets, no Nets, no Jets says we saw Blankenship make a business decision. He didn't make a business decision. The business decision was made for him. And then after people saw what happened to Blankenship, then they started making business decisions. Derek Jones says, I like certain Giants players. Next year, I will be a Giant fan again. Why are you waiting the next year, Derek? What's wrong? What's wrong with right now? Right now is a good time. It's a good time. Don't wait. Don't be late to the party, man. Don't be late to the party. Shout out to Big Blue with Drew, who says, shout out Dash, go Big Blue. That's a fact. Shout out to the Big Blue Nation. Shout out to the 154 people that are still in the building. Again, I didn't say it in the beginning. Make sure you hit that like button. It'll let the algorithm know that we're in the building, and the algorithm will let other people, well, other Giants fans know that we're in the building as well. Make sure you hit that like button. Appreciate you more than you know. And I already see it. Let me see if I go down, pause. Because I thought where my guy at? There he is right here. Shout out to my man Jonathan Pride. Says, I'm always around. Gotta let the chat eat. Good job. I'm I'm around, King. You got 7 and a possible. Is that bad? The pauses is that bad? 7 and a possible? We playing spades now, man. We playing spades, man. Michael says Neal and Hyde are a bust. Get rid of them. Listen, you need to let it go. Well, Neal can't even get a jersey. Hyatt, they're going to play Hyatt because they have to play Hyatt. And as long as Hyatt is wearing the blue, let's support him. Let's support him. You don't got to be rah-rah and all that other stuff. But, let's take it easy on him because we don't got no choice in the matter. And then when Slayton comes back, because Slayton is in the doghouse for a lot of people too. You got to support him too. Danny, what's going on, Danny? Danny's always hanging out with Sneaky G and them. Appreciate the love and support as always. Danny, how you feeling? He says, Neal, Banks, Slayton all needs to be traded before the trade deadline dash. I don't think there's a market for Neal. You might have a market for Banks. I'll ask you guys this right now, since I'm at the bottom. And again, I apologize if I missed your comment. Go ahead and put it in there again. Pause. Would you trade Tay Banks for AD Mitchell straight up? Straight up, just a yes or no. Would you make that trade? Tay Banks for AD Mitchell. Straight up, let me know. Sleeping K92 says Lil Jordan Humphrey has a good potential. I'm still waiting for him to get the call up. Obviously, we're going to call him up. But we'll see what it is. My man Money Mike agrees with me. He says Neighbors, AD Mitchell fit better than Waddle. I'm glad somebody else sees it that way too. They are 3 different types wide receivers. Wandell is our short, quick guy. Now that's a fact. Like Neighbors is do it all. Superstar wide receiver. Then you got Wandell, who's the gadget guy, shorter guy, slot guy. Motion out of the backfield guy. If we decide to keep him and pay him some money, I'm not sure what his market is going to be. But if you make the move for AD Mitchell, again, that's low cost. It's easier for you to re-sign Wandell Robinson. And AD can be that big X outside wide receiver that the New York Giants have been missing. And then when you look at next year's wide receiver room, when you get Neighbors back, you got Neighbors, you got AD Mitchell, you got Wandell Robinson, and then your 4th is Darius Slayton. And then your 5th is Jalen Hyatt. Or whoever else you might draft as well, in the draft. I'm just saying. Let's save a little bit of money. Scared money don't make money though. So if we get Waddle, if we get Olave, then cool. Luann, I saw another comment. I'm trying to find it now. Luann says Giants always seem to let their draft picks walk instead of paying them. That's why we don't win championships. The team doesn't stay together. Although this season the team is still together. They do give up. On draft picks quickly. I saw it with Daniel Bellinger. They gave up on him quickly. And look who's the guy that's making plays now. Daniel Bellinger. Wandell Robinson. I was down on Wandell Robinson. I thought he was limited. And then we're seeing that he actually can do more than we thought he can do. It is what it is. Michael says, I'd rather have Waddle than Robinson Dash. I mean, that's an easy decision for me as well. Two different types of wide receivers. One's more dynamic than the other. Waddle is dynamic. Now, Wandell is dynamic, in his own right. But we talk about is definitely levels. No disrespect. No disrespect. I like what Wandell is doing right now, though, to be honest. And like I said, everybody is feeding off the energy from Scatterboo and Dart, and Wandell Robinson has answered the call. I can't say the same thing about Darius Sleep. I can't say the same thing about Jalen Hyatt. But I can say that Wandell Robinson answered the call, and he showed me some dog. And I respect that. I respect that for sure. So if I'm riding with somebody, I'm definitely going to ride with Robinson over having to pay Jalen Waddle a boatload of money and also give up draft capital for him. We'll see what happens. That's another name. I'm glad you said that. We getting Jalen Waddle or Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is another name that's out there. And if you had a third-round pick, I think that'll get the deal done. Being that you don't have a third-round pick, you're gonna have to do some different things to try to get Jacoby Myers. He's a solid player. He's good to add to this room as well. And I think for the most part, I think he got a couple years left on his contract. I got to look that up. Didn't get a chance to see that yet. But let me know if you guys got breaking news while I'm sitting here. Let me know. Don't be greedy. Don't be stingy with the information. We're gonna wrap this thing up too. Already went over the hour mark, but again, you guys in here vibing with me, so I'm gonna show some love. Stay a little bit longer. Luann says, Dash, I heard Kayvon might be traded. What do you think about that? Because Giants can't pay him next season. He will want a lot of money. See. The good thing about that, he's already on the books for 2026. We picked up his 5th-year option. That money is already spent for Kayvon, so he can't go anywhere in 2026 unless we allow it. Unless he wants to hold out and miss out a season or something like that. I believe the 5th-year option is something like $16 to $17 million, $16 to $18 million for Kayvon next year. That's good money. I'm pretty sure he wants that money. But no, we still have control over Kayvon this year and also next year with that 5th-year option. Now, to answer your first question, I am not trading Kayvon. I'm not trading Kayvon because here's the thing. Yes, it took a while for Kayvon to get started. Yes, he waited for a contract year, quote-unquote contract year, to get serious. I don't know what you want to call it. Maybe it was the draft of Abdul Carter that got him in his bag right now. But right now, Kayvon Thibodeaux is not on the trade market for me. He is not up for sale for me right now. And that's just me personally. That's a fantastic question, though. I want to ask the chat that same question. Would you trade Kayvon Thibodeaux right now? I'll even say this. Would you trade Kayvon for one of those wide receivers that we're asking about? Whether it's Waddle or Chris Olave. I'm curious to see what you guys say. Because what's more important, a pass rusher or a wide receiver? And as far as I know, sometimes a quarterback makes the wide receivers. Because right now, what I'm seeing with Jackson Dart, he's making plays with the wide receivers that we have against good competition. We'll see what happens. So I'm curious to see what you guys say about that. Shout out to my man Corp with the $5 super chat. Says Slayton sucks so bad that he's not even worth a trade for a pack of smokes in prison. In prison is crazy. You can't even get a pack of smokes in prison? That's next level. That's next level. Shout out to my man Corp. Just a guy says, going to my first Giants game on Sunday. Let's go. Listen. Sorry, where's my water? Pardon me for a second. Shout out to Arrowhead. I always drink Arrowheads. Got to check Arrowhead. Just a guy says, going to my first Giants game on Sunday. Let's go. Now, this is a good game to pick. I don't know if you live in the Denver area or something like that, or if you're traveling to the game. Shout out to you. Hopefully you have a fantastic time. Be safe out there, of course. Even for people that are not used to the area. If you're just flying in there, like that altitude can affect you. So make sure you stay hydrated and stuff like that. See, I care about you. Stay hydrated. Make sure you stay on top of that because some weird things can happen with that in that altitude. But I'm just saying, hope you have a fantastic time. Just a guy. Let me know. Michael says Chargers want Neil Dash. They do. I'll make that deal in a heartbeat. What you gonna give me for Neil? I'll take a bag of chips for Neil. What? He can't even get a jersey. Whatever they want to offer for Neil, go ahead. I'll take it. Okay, so oh wow, so people would trade Tibbs. So you guys would trade Tibbs for wide receiver, huh? Arlon says absolutely. Luann, even you, Luann, you'll trade him for a wide receiver, huh? Banks is a bum money, Mike. Hey, it is what it is. Yes, all of the yeses. Greg T says I trade Banks for a scratch off and a pack of backwoods. That's hilarious. Ian, everybody's saying yes. Isaac says he'll even throw in Hyatt. Danny says imagine both Dart and Waddle doing Waddle dance in the end zone. That would feed families. Wow. Prince said you ever roll up a piece of turkey meat into a piece of cheese and eat it? Trade Slayton for one of those. That's crazy. A roll up? That's crazy. TD Midas says Banks best CB on the team. You believe that? You really believe that, TD Midas? Prince says no bread, no mayo. You guys are bad, man. Y'all listen. I'm not doing it. I'm not trading Tibbs. I'm not trading Tibbs. When you look at this defense right now, as much as everybody loves Brian Burns, and he's doing fantastic, if the season stopped right now, he would be the MVP of the defense for the New York Giants right now. Tibbs is doing a lot of the dirty work. We're winning games and putting up points without that wide receiver too that everybody's looking for right now. I might be standing on the island by myself right now. That's how I feel. For the Game of Thrones people out there. Remember when Jon Snow, Battle of the Bastards, right? He out there on that field by himself. And for the people that were really invested in Game of Thrones, you thought it was over for Jon Snow. That's how I feel right now. But ain't no cavalry coming to save me because right now I'm outnumbered. Y'all want to trade Tibbs. Y'all would trade Tibbs for Waddle straight up. Listen, I can't argue with you guys. It is what it is. I just disagree. Respectfully. Danny says, I also wouldn't mind Jerry Jeudy because Dable is familiar with him from his days at Alabama. He is. He coached him. Absolutely. Oh, I was tripping. I'm tripping. Okay, I was reading the wrong section. I'm glad y'all... yeah, that was the first question. So I was tripping. All right, so I see hell no. Isaac, no. There they go. I was tripping. Nobody said anything to me. No, nose. I see the nose. Okay, okay, Lou, I apologize. See, that's what happens, man. You guys been so busy in the chat that I thought the answer to the first question was the answer about Tibbs. So I'm glad that there's not that many crazy people out here. I feel better. I thought I was on an island by myself. That's why I need to go all the way down to the bottom of the chat. I apologize. And that lets me know that it's time to wrap this show up. Alex says, man, people read way too much into X. That's not even a legit source. PFF was the only one that said anything, and they just threw like 20 names on there for clicks. Kayvon ain't on the trade block. Yeah, I don't think he is either. When I saw that one graphic where they had trade Kayvon for Jawan Jennings, I was like, what? Crazy. What's going on, D-Dan? He says, Dash, I feel we're about to turn the corner. Listen. D-Dan, we already turned the corner, D-Dan. Now we playing catch up. We turned the corner. Now we trying to catch up to everybody else. That's how I feel right now. But the corner turned as soon as you put Jackson Dart in there. We was heading south, and now we're heading north. Now we just playing catch up with everybody. Calvin Ridley, huh? William says Calvin Ridley is who we should get. I like Calvin Ridley a couple years back. What was it when he got in trouble for gambling? He was with the Falcons, and then I think the Jags. Was it the Falcons or the Jags? Somebody traded for him for pennies. Might have been the Jags. They got him for pennies, and it didn't end up working out. And then he ended up going to the Tennessee Titans. And I don't know how he's doing right now. I don't know how he's doing. Jonathan Price says, Dash After Dark, appreciate you, King. He says, shout out to the chat. See you Saturday, King. 9 and counting. It ain't safe. Now I'm up to 9 now. At least I caught some of those. At least I could pause. I gotta get out of here, man. Cause now it's 9. Now it's 10 and counting. It is what it is. Do I like Ridley? Not as much as I used to. I thought that was the move to make a few years back. I don't know now. It depends on what the asking price is. What the asking price is. If you can get him for a fifth, maybe. Darian says, Dash, I heard someone say Dontavian Wicks from Green Bay. What do you think? Definitely not trading Kayvon. Somebody was me. I don't know if you saw me say it, but I'm definitely one of the people that said Dontavian Wicks. Once I saw the tweet that said Green Bay, that the Giants reached out to Green Bay about their wide receivers, I looked at the wide receiver. Well, you got Christian, Christian Watson. He's hurt. They're not going to get rid of Romeo Doubs. He just had a 3-touchdown game, not getting rid of him. Dontavian Wicks, because the other guy, Reed, I don't think Reed is even playing right now. He might be hurt. But Dontavian Wicks makes a lot of sense. And he's cheaper. I just talked about Romeo Doubs. I would love Romeo Doubs. I was mock drafting. I was mocking Romeo Doubs that year he came out. Nobody knew who he was coming out of Nevada. I thought he was going to be a perfect fifth round selection for us. And I think that year he came out, who'll be taking the fifth round that year? What was that, 23? Well, we already took Hyatt, so that wasn't going to happen anyway. But Doubs, listen. Banks and Slayton for Wicks. You're not getting rid of Slayton with that price tag. Not getting rid of him. You might have to throw Banks and Hyatt in there for Wicks. And guess what? That might work too, because Banks played the best with who? Xavier McKinney. Maybe Xavier McKinney can help get the best out of Banks. Who knows? That's what I'm saying. Side guy Brian Christian Watson is too injury prone. That's a fact. That's a fact. Is it Elijah? Elijah says we win these next 2 games. I got us 4-4 in the first in the conference 2 weeks. That's what I'm talking about. I'm right there with you, Elijah. Right there with you. We knock down these 2 games. We become 500. Whatever happens with the rest of the division, I'm hoping that they lose. Then you got San Francisco coming to MetLife. We can turn that into a 5-4 because they're going to be limping in the MetLife. They got Fred Warner gone. All their running backs is who's, because they've been depleted. No Joey Bosa, not Joey Bosa, no Nick Bosa. That's a team that's interested in Kayvon Thibodeau too. Don't do it. I'm just saying. Imagine that. Starting the way that we started off, and in 3 weeks we can be 5-4 and in the hunt for real. Possibly on the top of the division too. We got to take care of business though. Before we even get to that though, I'm getting way too far ahead of myself. Before we get into that, just thinking about taking care of business with the Broncos. That's it. You can't overlook the Broncos. We can't talk about being 500. We got to take care of business, because the last time we felt really, really confident, what happened to us? We shot ourselves in the foot 5 times and lost to the Saints. So let's not overlook anybody. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's concentrate at the task at hand, and that's the Denver Broncos. Elijah says the Broncos game will make or break our season. This is kind of a must-win game. Like I kind of agree with that, right? It just depends on how you're looking at this season. If you're looking at this season as, trying to make it to the playoffs, which a lot of people want to do, I want to do that too. Or if you're looking at it like it's about the development of Jackson Dart and seeing how we can get, move on with this franchise quarterback. Mike says no talking about the Saints. I'll leave it alone. Taking care of business every game. Now that's a fact. That's the goal, man. What did Jackson Dart say? Got to stack W's. The New York Giants are learning how to win games again. We were coming up with fantastic ways of losing. We're learning how to win games again, and that's when you say, "Oh, we got to turn this thing around." No, it's turned around already. We're heading in the right direction. We just got to keep on adding. Sleeping says, could we see Alec Pierce? I don't think they're giving up Alec Pierce. Right now, the Colts are so hot, and they use Alec Pierce a lot. He's a part of their main, game plan. A.D. Mitchell was a part of their game plan until they put him in the doghouse. Rightfully so. But I don't see them getting rid of Alec Pierce, though. I don't see that happening. It would have to be a substantial, offer to get rid of Alex Pierce. And again, I'm not trying to give up a second-round pick. I'm really not. You heard Dobbs. It's rumors, man. We'll see what happens. I don't know what's true or not right now. Myron Scott says, Big Dash, we good. Little Jordan Humphreys takeover. Listen, it's a feel-good story with Little Jordan Humphrey. It's a feel-good. If he turns out to be a guy that Jackson Dart can use really, consistently, then fine. He was a mid-round pick. 6'4", 220 pounds. I like what he did. Last week. If you can get the best, we might not have a choice. Like right now, it's Wednesday. And a trade has not been made yet. We only got 3 days. We only got 3 more days to try to get something done. And Saturday is really pushing it. It's really pushing it Saturday. I can't expect them to make a move and the guy be, that's cutting it a little too close. So if we don't hear any news tonight or tomorrow, then we might not hear anything for like another week. We'll see what happens though. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Shout out to KC Legit, $1.99 super chat says, F these wide receivers built the trenches in the run game. Well, trenches are looking pretty good right now. We do have some depth and with the O-line. We still haven't seen Marcus Bowe. Running game is looking like it's there. We have the running back with Cam Scatterbull. Tracy coming back off that the shoulder injury. We should see a little bit more of him in this game against the Broncos. And then Devin Singletary is solid right now too, and we got him for a little bit. So, but I agree, it's always about the trenches. I can't say F these wide receivers though. Not fully. Because we definitely need the weapons, and if Jackson Dart is going to continue, to get better, then yeah, you gotta add some more weapons. I'm at 11 now. Really? I'm at 11. Here it is, man. That's what I'm talking about, Mike. Good night, Dash. Good night to the chat. Love you all. Go Giants. That's the perfect one right there, man. Well, actually, Elijah got one more question. Dash, last question for me. You think we trade Devin Singletary at all and add Turbo Miller? I believe, who is it? I believe the Texans are looking for a running back. And Devin Singletary came from the Texans. What you going to offer for him? I'll take a fifth. I'll take a fourth, depending on how desperate you are for Devin Singletary. Probably not going to get a fourth for him because he's running back at the end of the day. But we could talk. We could talk shop. And then if that is the case, then yes, you bring up Turbo Miller. Absolutely. But all right, man. Again, I appreciate. Still got 133 people in the building. Thank you for the love and support. Thank you for tuning in to the Giants War Room. Had a great conversation with my man Chad Jensen from the Mile High Huddle. Good conversation. That's what we're here about, man. That's what we're here about. But with that being said, and I see you, Luann says, good night, Dash. See you Saturday night. That's a fact. The next time you guys see me, if I don't put out Keys of Victory, probably do that maybe Friday. Put that video out. But the next time we're live is going to be for the Late Night Giants Talk on Saturday. Hope to see all you guys there. Absolutely. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows Big Blue Nation. Let's go.